Two men went to a cabin in Canada's Nahanni National Park for a hunting trip. They planned to stay for a few days and enjoy the wilderness. But when their friend came back to check on them, the men were gone. The cabin was locked, and what was left inside didn't make sense. This marked the beginning of a strange mystery that no one has been able to solve. On June 12, 2005, two friends, David Horace and Frederick Hardesty, set off on a hunting trip to a cabin in Canada's Nahanni National Park. It wasn't their first time. Both men loved the outdoors and had spent countless days exploring the wilderness near their home in Fort Simpson. This trip was supposed to be just like any other, quiet, peaceful, and full of adventure. The cabin belonged to their friend, Rod Gunderson. It was remote, about 80 miles northwest of town, surrounded by dense forests and rugged terrain. Rod dropped them off that morning, helping them settle in before saying goodbye. As he drove away, the two men waved from the porch, ready to enjoy a few days of hunting and solitude. But 4 days later, everything changed. When Rod returned to check on them, he found the cabin locked and eerily quiet. Inside, their supplies and firearms were still there, but the men were gone. Odd details stood out, like the bullet holes in the walls and floor, and signs of small fires outside. It didn't make sense. Rod didn't waste any time. He called the police, and that's when the search began. What seemed like a simple hunting trip quickly unraveled into one of the most baffling mysteries the region had ever seen. The day after the men went missing, a large search effort began. For an entire week, volunteers, friends, and family searched the area around the cabin, hoping for any clue that might explain what had happened. But no matter how hard they looked, nothing turned up, and by June 23rd, the official search was called off. That didn't stop the people from Fort Simpson, though. Their families and neighbors weren't ready to give up. They kept searching, determined to find answers. Then, on June 27th, they found David's body, hidden in thick bushes, over 2 miles from the cabin. When the searchers looked closely at David's body, they noticed something strange. His hands and arms were covered in burns. Jonas Antoine, a friend of both men helping with the search, thought this was odd. There was no clear reason why David would have such severe burns, and it didn't make sense to him. The RCMP were contacted after David's body was found, and his remains were sent to Edmonton for an autopsy. With this discovery, the search grew larger. The police brought in search dogs and more officers, and even more community members joined the effort. On July 8th, Frederick's body was found floating in the North Nahanni River, more than 12 miles away from the cabin. This confused many people because the area where he was found had already been searched many times by different teams on different days. It seemed unlikely they would have missed him, leading some to wonder if his body had been placed there during the search. The RCMP held a press conference to update the public on the case. They reported that David had died of hypothermia and Frederick had drowned, based on autopsy results. However, these explanations left their families and friends with more questions than answers. It was hard to understand how two men on a hunting trip could die from such different causes and end up so far apart from each other. The RCMP's handling of the case only added to the confusion. Despite strange details surrounding the deaths, the police ruled out foul play. They overlooked signs of a struggle, such as the bullet holes found at the cabin. Frederick's brother, Robert, who helped with the search, spoke out in frustration during an interview. He mentioned that Frederick's shirt had a large hole, possibly from a shotgun, but the RCMP didn't see this as proof of foul play. As time went on, family members expressed frustration with how the investigation was handled. The Frederick family filed a complaint about the case, but an internal investigation concluded that the RCMP had done nothing wrong. This decision deeply upset both families and the Fort Simpson community. David's stepbrother, Joseph Horace, expressed his concerns during an interview saying, "The picture is bigger than just two guys. One who died of hypothermia and the other who drowned. Something else happened before all that." Many people agreed with Joseph, even speculating that the RCMP may have had reasons for not properly investigating the case, though no one knew what those reasons might be. Despite years of efforts by the families to get the case reopened, it remains closed and unsolved to this day. The mystery of what really happened to David and Frederick continues to haunt their loved ones,